Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 65, coming at you on this beautiful Thursday evening. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, and we are one sleep, one night away from heading to Viva Las Vegas for UFC 306 at the Sphere. Again, I try to get pre-sale. Your boy is a little bit of a hardcore MMA fan, if you didn't already know. And they started at $5,000. Snag some tickets for me and two friends at $850 a pop. Cheaper than UFC 299 in Miami. Breaking the bank, but making it happen. All for the Sugar Show. Usually, for this weekly MMA podcast, it streams anywhere. You listen to podcasts or videos on YouTube. I am rocking the Sugar merch. But I will rock the Sugar merch next weekend after Sugar Sean and still defends his bantamweight title for the second time. But I am rocking my Pittsburgh Steelers gear. I forgot to wear it last week. I think I was wearing Montana Grizz gear, my alumni. They took the L, sadly. Another tough start to the season. But the Pittsburgh Steelers 1-0. Short notice quarterback swap for Justin Fields and for Russell Wilson. And the defense, this man should be two-time, working on a three-time DPOY. TJ Watt, boy, taking care of business in Atlanta, this week in Denver. Rookie quarterback Bo Nix, he ain't ready. If you're not hyped up about the NFL season, I feel bad for you because, boy, was the first Sunday locked and loaded, and I had a good time. But speaking about locked and loaded, we have one hell of a show for you guys. Before I head to Las Vegas, I would have liked to have this done earlier in the week, but your boy is going through a potential home purchasing process, first-time home buyer, and if you've ever been through that process, it takes a lot of time, consideration, and energy, and I've just been getting after it, potentially switching the JOB as well. So lots of crazy things going on in my world. But in the world of MMA, we have a couple fights that have been announced. We have the veterans Tib Means and Court McGee going at it, UFC 307. We have Gabriel Miranda stepping in for AJ Cunningham against Morgan Charrer, September 28th in that Paris card. And then Kennedy and Shekwaku stepping in and taking on Justin Tafa for UFC 308. Then we have the official bantamweight debut of Charles Jourdain taking on Victor Henry November 2nd. Really excited to see what Charles can do in the bantamweight division because he has a ton of skill. And then last week we had the announcement right before the fight that the Ryan Spann OSP fight is postponed due to OSP with an illness. That is rescheduled for UFC 307. And then also former UFC fighter, now PFL fighter, Blagoy Ivanov suspended 22 months for failed PFL drug test. I'm not too sure what that failed test is, but he's at the end of his career. I'm not going to spend the energy figuring it out. Outside of MMA, or outside of UFC, we had last weekend the Bellator Championship Series in San Diego. Now we have it in London this weekend. So let's kick off recapping last weekend's card. As the biggest name on the PFL Bellator roster, in my opinion, Usman Nurmagomedov won again, defending his title with a unanimous decision over fellow Russian Alexander Shabli in a very high-skilled back-and-forth affair. But Nurmagomedov was doing more and more each round. A nice performance by Lorenz Larkin with a round 1 TKO over Levine Chokeli. I love my boy Lorenz Larkin, another brilliant performance. We had Aaron Jeffrey with a unanimous decision over the veteran Douglas Lima. A tough loss for Douglas Lima. And then Wyoming representing man Bryce Meredith with a round 1 submission via rear naked choke over John Makaluli. And a game guy that came out super aggressive, kind of rocked Bryce a little bit. Bryce settled in, got a takedown, got his neck, and literally put the kid out to sleep. He did not tap. He went 9-9. So love to see Bryce Meredith staying undefeated, moving up the Bellator / PFL promotion. I can't wait to see what he has going on next. And we have another Wyoming collegiate wrestler undefeated going at it this weekend in the London series. Early main card on Max, which was HBO Max, now Max, 9 a.m. Pacific. We have Archie Colgan, again 307 representing, taking on another undefeated fighter in Manuel Sousa, who's 11-0. So that is a big-time fight. And then ex-UFC fighter Mark DeCasey's taking on Tim Wilde. See if any of these ex-UFC fighters can get something going in another promotion. And then we have Leah McCourt and Sarah Collins as the headliner. Quite a lackluster card for me. The two undefeateds. Obviously, I'm biased with Archie, but a solid fighter going at it. I'm not too sure why Bellator is still rocking or PFL is rocking the Bellator name, but more MMA action before UFC 306. Ah, man, I'm fired up. So last weekend we recorded early on schedule on Tuesday before episode 4 of the Contender Series. So tonight we'll be recapping episode 4 and 5, which episode 4 was a lot better. We had Seok-Hyun Ko with a unanimous decision over Igor Cavalcanti, a massive underdog, getting a contract. You love to see that stuff in the Contender Series. We have Fjordan Santos with the unanimous decision over Will Curry, which was another big upset. I was surprised that Santos got the contract here. Dana White's been handing him out. And then one of the biggest, youngest, most, media-covered prospect, Austin Bashi, was supposed to fight Phoenix's and Montana's own Tommy Gunn. What is his last name? Gosh, why am I blanking on his last name right now? Let me pull it up. I want to say Merlot. Tommy McMillan. Come on now. But he pulled out due to injury. So Austin Bashi getting the job done. Aggressive little scrapper. Moving up to the featherweight division. Looks like he should be a bantamweight, but he's a thick little boy. He defeated Dorian Ramos via round 2 submission with the rear naked choke. He's getting a contract. So stay tuned for Austin Bashi in the UFC. And then Eunice Rubin got a round 1 knockout over Shannon Clark. Plus 800 for the knockout and the odds there. And it was just a brilliant knockout because Shannon thought she could just walk her down. No defense, just kind of walked her opponent down, taking the shots, tried to bully her. And she was wrong because Rubin came over the top, shut the lights off. You love to see it. And Dana White even had her pulled aside after the fight for the interview. And then we had Quillian Salkeed with unanimous decision over Gage Young. A hard-fought battle, my fight of the night, and Salkeed getting a contract, a solid scrap. That's what you like to see in the Contender Series if no finishes. So quite a few contracts in episode 4. Episode 5 was all over the place, but the highlight of episode 5 was City Kickboxing adding another light heavyweight stud to the mix. Navajo Sterling stealing the show with a round 2 knockout over Philip Latu. And then in kind of weird situation here, there was a fight called off as Quamuel Otani changed his mind. Sean Shelby went and hyped him up, got his gloves taped up, his hands taped up. Second time, decided not to fight because he was going to fight Cody Still, I guess, who has got a good reputation, scared the guy out of fighting. So Cody Still will get another opponent later this season. I mean, this is the step before the UFC. You can't make this shit up. And then we had Nicole Kalari defeating Corinne Laframboise via round 1 armbar for a contract in the flyweight division. And bantamweight Josias Musasa getting a contract with a very, very close split decision victory. I think even Dana said he thought the other fighter won, which was Otar Tanzalovi, who trains with Marab and Team Syndicate. But Dana praised Musasa for not having the best situation in Africa, not having the best partners. So he's giving him a shot, come here, train with the best talent, as he had shown some potential as a striker-heavy fighter. So really bummed that Tommy McMillan couldn't fight Bashi, but Bashi looking good in episode 4. some solid contracts in episode 4, the massive win by Eunice Rubin, and then City Kickboxing's Navajo Sterling. Watch out. But on Saturday, we had UFC Fight Night 97. Your boy had some nice picks. We went 8-2 in the evening. That puts me overall 393 wins, 196 losses, 7 no contests or draws. And on the year, 200 wins, 110 losses, trying to double up those losses, 4 no contests or draws. To recap this Apex card, to be honest, the prelims were actually pretty solid. We didn't break down a lot of the fights as, usually one fighter was carrying the fight. The other people, even I don't really know much about them. But it was a good amount of action. The early fights on the main card were very violent. The co-main and the main were high-level IQ fights. Real MMA nerds who love guys that bring the full package, grappling, like the real mixed martial arts. These fights did an amazing showcase. Really showed to the world who they are and what they're capable of. The younger fighters in Silva and Sean Brady just being too much for the veteran fighters. And I think a couple Apexes now, I previewed them at a 4 out of 10 on the barometer, how exciting this is, and they delivered a 7 out of 10. You love to see that action. And even a little bit of fallout in the fight card is Alessandro Costa was out, I think, like Tuesday or Wednesday before the fight, injuring his shoulder midweek. So we had a short notice fill-in for Cody Durden filling in to take on Matt Schnell at a catchweight. But some good fights. We had 2 tough guys. We had Nathan Fletcher, the guy who broke his fibula in the Ultimate Fighter house and was still training, getting a round 2 submission via arm triangle choke. Gotta love those arm triangle chokes. We had Jacqueline Amarim with a round 1 submission via armbar over Vanessa Demopoulos, making it look easy. A really high-paced, action-packed fight this was. We had Gabriel Santos with a unanimous decision over Yi Za, a road to the UFC final winner. And Yi Za, man, he didn't win the fight, didn't win a round really, but he was battling. He's durable. He showed how much he really wanted to be there. And somehow he was able to last after round 1 from just a murderous onslaught Gabriel Santos put on display. And then a massive favorite, Isaac Dolgarian with a round 2 submission via arm triangle choke. These guys must be listed, and that's the choke, I'm telling you. But over Brendan Marat. So we'll kick this off in the prelims. We had Chris Padilla with a round 2 TKO via doctor's stoppage over Rom Zhu, getting a second stint in the UFC, coming from road to the UFC this season. And before probably the nastiest elbow, as this podcast gets built up, this is bows and TKOs. I'm going to have like an edit of a big bow coming in, bows and TKOs. This was the freaking epitome of bows and TKOs, man. This was the cleanest landing elbow. Bravo to Chris Padilla. But before that elbow, this was an awesome kickboxing competitive bout. Solid leg kicks delivered by each fighter, attacking their lead legs with the wider stance from Rongju especially. So I'd say Padilla got the better of those exchanges, but Rongju was trading. And then Rongju showed off some very nice technical boxing, had some clean straight shots. And round 2, Chris landed the nastiest, cleanest elbow, again, of all time, right in the upper part of the eye. It was like an elbow jab. Just like, boom, quick, very powerful elbow, boom, cut it, and that thing just ballooned right away. And it caused the eye to immediately swell up for Rongju, so much that after about 20 seconds, the ref stopped the fight, asked the doctor to come in, and the doctor clearly was like, this guy can't see, this is bad, called the fight off. Clearly, second stint for a very young and talented Rongju in the toughest division in the lightweight division, trying to earn his way. The doctor calls the fight. That is what, that kind of shit happens. Regardless, big win for Padilla. And again, brilliant elbow. Cheers to that one. Now, statistically, Rongju landed 49 total and significant strikes, compared to Chris's 73 total and 68 significant. He was 0 for 1 in takedowns as well. Now, Chris extends his winning streak to 5. He is 2-0 in the UFC. And Rong Zhu ends his 4-fight winning streak. He is 1-3 in the UFC, now in his second UFC stint. So what's next? Well, I say give me Chris and Mauricio Ruffy. That would be an absolute banger. And for Rong Zhu, he could scrap with Christos Giagos. I still feel he deserves to be in the UFC. Moving into the main card, that was the only prelim we previewed. We had Cody Durden on that short notice bout, getting a round 2 submission via ninja choke over Matt Schnell. Brutal loss for Matt Schnell. Again, the fight was made the week of. It was supposed to be Alessandro Costa. I'm sure Matt Schnell hates that happened. But both men, they just were like rock'em, sock'em boppers. They're like, you know what? We're not going to be technical. We're not going to come here in with a game plan. We're just going to try to outgun each other. We're going to clang and bang. Both guys clearly landing shots, but Cody just landed the bigger ones a lot more. Where Matt was trying to counter from kind of the bigger loopy shots that Cody was delivering. And then Matt actually was the one to shoot the first takedown. Both guys good grappling. Cody even has the Olympic tattoo from his wrestling days. But what a dog Cody is, man. Although this was at the bigger weight, bantamweight, he showed up, made weight, was professional about it, and just went for the kill instantly and was hyped up in the octagon, building himself back. Huge win for Cody Durden. Statistically, Matt landed 40 total insignificant strikes. He was 0 for 1 of those takedown attempts. And Cody landed 37 total strikes, 34 of them significant with that submission attempt. So Cody now ends his 2-fight losing streak, starts a new winning streak. He is 5-3 since 2022. The boy is active, man. And he does move up 2 spots in the rankings to number 13. And Matt extends his losing streak to 3. He is 1-4 since 2022. And he moves down 3 spots in the rankings to number 14. So what's next? Well, I think for Cody, a fight with Tim Elliott makes a ton of sense. And for Matt, he could fight with Jimmy Flick. I would love to see that. But moving on, you want to talk about savagery. The Mean Machine. We had Steve Garcia with a round 1 TKO over Kyle Nelson. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Steve Garcia. It's a shame these fights were in the Apex, I'll tell you what. But this was just another short notice fight. This was actually a couple weeks out, though. It wasn't midweek, as Calvin Kattar had pulled out quite a while ago, which was a huge opportunity for Kyle Nelson. And now Kyle Nelson takes a guy further in the rankings, not even ranked, and gets beat. But Kyle Nelson kept talking all week in the media leading up that Steve's going to come out aggressive in round 1. He's going to gas out round 1 trying to get a finish, and I will take advantage of those opportunities later in the fight. Well, Steve put a finish on an insane, sporadic round 1 pressure on Kyle Nelson, and he just couldn't hang. Kyle had his moments early in the fight, but as Steve accidentally slipped and Kyle got his back, Steve somehow stayed calm, cool, collective. He'd been over-aggressive, slip, Kyle comes in, gets his back, you're looking kind of not good up against the cage, but somehow Steve was able to get a weird reversal, just kind of turn into his guard, or I think it might have even been a body triangle, and just was landing the nastiest ground and pound and would not give up, to the point it's just like head trauma. It's not like clean, precise, on the face, knock you out, but it's just like that blunt force trauma. You're holding it, but a guy comes, all he has with his elbow and forearms, like smacking you in the head, bouncing off the canvas. I mean, absolutely nasty. He got the finish before the bell round 2. Brutal for Kyle Nelson, who was supposed to fight in the top 15. But Steve has been running through his opponents. His nickname, the Mean Machine, he is living up to it. Statistically, Steve landed 39 total strikes, 22 of them significant with the reversal, and 1 minute and 36 seconds of control time. Kyle landed 31 total strikes, only 1 significant, and he had 2 minutes and 13 seconds of control time. So the Mean Machine, Steve extends his winning streak to 5. He is 5-1 since 2022. And Kyle ends his 3-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He is 3-2-1 since 2022. So what's next? Well, I think Steve and Sadiq Youssef would be a really fun fight. I think Steve has earned a crack at the top 15. And for Kyle, how about a matchup with the veteran Cub Swanson? But that set us up for these two brilliant displays of mixed martial arts with very high IQ fighting. We had Natalia Silva with a unanimous decision over the insane Jessica Andrade. This was fight of the night. Well-deserved 50 G's to Silva. I don't know about you guys, but every time I think of Natalia Silva, I just think of her screaming and smiling. She has that contagious energy about her. But this fight was the biggest moment in Natalia Silva's UFC career. She got to show the world what she's all about. Her toughest opponent by far in her young UFC career. She passed all the tests, give her those green check marks immediately. And I was actually shocked in the size difference from the weigh-ins on Friday, because Jessica has been up and down divisions, but you could tell she's naturally built for a strawweight. She's usually pretty powerful force and thick compared to some of the other girls. But at flyweight, Natalia Silva's not the thickest. She's built for speed. But man, she looked a lot bigger than Jessica Andrade. And I think it just shows that Jessica should be fighting at strawweight. But not only was Natalia bigger, she was way too fast, way more technical, and actually was able to really outdo probably the more powerful Jessica Andrade the entire fight. The exchanges and tactics were a ton of fun throughout the fight, but Silva was just too much with the well-mixed attack between strikes and kicks. The pure volume and speed is going to be tough to handle for anybody. I was intrigued by Jessica's ability to be a brute force, but Natalia kept moving. She's hard to hit. Jessica, with those big loopy shots and hooks, wasn't going to get the job done. And the stats show that. Jessica landed 62 total strikes, 50 of them significant. She was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts, and she even had 2 minutes and 11 seconds of control time. Now, Natalia landed 119 total, 117 of them significant. She was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts and had 49 seconds of control time. So Natalia extends her winning streak to 12, 6-0 in the UFC. She moves up 2 spots in the rankings to number 6. And Jessica ends her 2-fight winning streak, starts a new losing streak. She's an even 4-4 since 2022. The lady's been active, and she moves down 2 spots in the rankings to number 8. So what's next? Well, Natalia deserves to move up. I think she needs to get closer to a title shot with that brilliant display. And I think there's a really interesting scrap and matchup against Macy Barber, especially since the Rose Macy Barber fight didn't get rebooked, which was kind of depressing for me. But that's a great fight. And for Jessica, I think she needs to stay at strawweight again. I think a fight with Tabitha Ricci would be great. She's going to be staying active. Supposedly she's got some money things going on from her manager or something like that. So would love to see that as well. But Natalia Silva, if you don't know, now you know. Then the main event. If you want to, if you're a film study guy, you want to watch things back, this is just one of those fights, man. Sean motherfucking Brady with a unanimous decision over Gilbert Burns. Philly, stand up. I mean, Sean Brady didn't get a finish in this fight, but he showed up and showed out for 25 fucking minutes. He outdid a very good Gilbert Burns with his striking, wrestling, and volume, much like I had expected. I do think age plays a big part in this fight. You know, Gilbert's kind of aging out, nearing 40, and there's just a lot of young studs in this division that are beginning their primes like Brady, and they're just lurking, blood in the water. I mean, I saw Gilbert fight Jack Della. He was beating Jack Della almost the whole fight until he got caught, but there's so many good guys, the Shavkats, the Ian Garys of the world in this division. Now, the first round was both men coming out of the gates and just meeting in the middle. Like that Max Holloway, we're going down. They did not want to get pushed back. And it was just a straight boxing/wrestling bout. Box, 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 take down, up against the cage, take you down, reverse, get up against the cage because they have good defense, take you down, box, box, box. And it's just insane. For Gilbert to even go at this pace at his age, bravo to freaking Gilbert Burns. Because the volume these men put on and the pure pace was, again, it's just very, very impressive. And the scrambles. the takedowns, the reversals. There was just so many fun things to watch. I think I've watched the fight 3 times now. And it's really fun when you get to see 2 really high-level black belts in jiu-jitsus show the full package. We didn't even watch any jiu-jitsu. You got to see the full tool belt here. Now, Sean, clearly the younger, probably thicker, bigger fighter, probably cuts a little bit more weight, was just able to keep the cardio going, man. Landing more volume each and every round, being the aggressor in the middle to force Gilbert back to kind of counter back, but he was landing more volume and leading the dance. And Gilbert just really didn't have time to create space. Kind of like what you would expect with Merab Dvalishvili this weekend. He just keeps coming forward that you can't really get anything going. But Gilbert did land some big shots with his counters. I think rocked Brady a couple times. But by the time it got into the championship rounds in rounds 4 and 5, he started to slow down. He was able to, Sean was able to get enough takedowns and kind of cruise on a path to victory. Again, a very high level and beautiful technical display by both fighters, but especially Sean Brady. Now, statistically, Gilbert landed 76 total strikes, 47 of them significant, with 1 takedown in 6 attempts. So didn't really have much success. Sean's tough there. And he had 2 minutes and 43 seconds of control time. Now, Sean landed 274 total strikes, 130 of them significant, so a lot more volume there. He had 7 takedowns in 17 attempts, so Gilbert doing his best, avoiding those, defending those, not under 50%, but still 7 takedowns, which led to 10 minutes and 34 seconds of control time, so more than 2 full rounds. So Sean extends his winning streak to 2. He is 2-1 since 2022. He moves up 2 spots in the rankings to number 6. And Gilbert extends his losing streak to 3. He is 2-4 since 2022. He moves down 2 spots in the rankings to number 8. So what's next? Well, Sean, he called for Ian Gary in the post-fight interview. I love that idea. There's a lot of the top division already matched up. So unless they want to sit out, why not make it happen? And for Gilbert, I do expect him to take some time off, but maybe a return fight against Vicente Luque or Randy Brown would make a bunch of sense. Enough of the Apex, enough of that Bellator PFL-ish. We got UFC 306 this weekend, and your boy is absolutely hyped up. Speaking of which, give me a little Casamigos and Blanco, you know what I'm saying? Cheers. So, I think there's a lot of interesting things on MMA, Twitter, X, whatever we want to call it. Up and down reviews. There was ups and down reviews of UFC 300, and it absolutely delivered. We have 2 titles on the line. The very much anticipated bantamweight showdown, a clash of style affair. We have the end of the war in the trilogy. We have one woman who's one of the woman goats of all MMA. We have the Mexican assassin who is the staple of UFC, Noche. And then we have the rest of the main card, which is really set up for that Mexican style fighting experience. Straight violence and fun striking collisions. The rest of the prelims, pretty well matched in my opinion. It should be down to the wire scraps. We get some real good young talent being showcased here. And again, the full Mexican fighting spirit's on full display. We technically have 9 Mexican fighters. I know Ortega's technically American, but really comes from that Mexican heritage. I have predicted that Mexico, about 500, still comes out 5-4 on the night. The big Mexican fighters getting the dub. But again, we have that. Then we have the Sphere, which is a show in itself. And this is what we know about the Sphere so far. Obviously, it's at the Sphere, the one and only sporting event. Who knows if there will be another. It is called Riyadh Season El Noche UFC because it's so expensive. There's some odd millions in the hole for this one-time event, so they had to have Saudi Arabia come and sponsor it. We have the first ever 1080p broadcast in ESPN history, which is insane. One of my biggest gripes for the UFC, I'm sure other people feel this way, if you go to the live UFC event, the tickets are so expensive, give me the pay-per-view. I should be able to go home and rewatch this on demand. If I've had a couple too many Casa Amigos, right, I want to watch it back. I want to see what the broadcast looked like from the TV version. But 1080p, that's exciting. It's usually a little less. We have the special fight kits, the green, red, and black. We have the haptic seat feedback. I am absolutely stoked about that. Where if there's a big slam, strikes landed, or some big event, your seat's going to be shaking. And I heard it's pretty dope. It's not some cheap movie theater thing. We have new Octagon girls. 6 are Mexican born. 2 will be second generation Mexicans. And then a whole different level of production. Dana White's even talking about making this production something that they can watch back at the Sphere for a paid ticket. He's wanting to get an Emmy, Oscar, Golden Globe, Grammy, a record-breaking gate at $23 million in revenue. Supposed to be different pay-per-view numbers. There's supposedly Easter eggs going to be provided throughout these 90-second movies. And if you could find the Easter eggs, he has told everybody you get a $25,000 prize. Once in a lifetime at the Sphere, the movies, the screen, they're doing things in different worlds for fighter walkouts. I will break it all down for you after I've been in Viva Las Vegas for UFC 306. I am so hyped. I am giving this an 8 out of 10. It is solid. It isn't a $299, $300 card. And I think that happening this year, it's really hard to give cards a 9 or 10 out of 10 because there's just been so much juice this year. But let's kick this sucker off. We have one good fight we will not break down. We have Ketlin Souza taking on Mexican young fighter Yasmin Yarguay, and she's the favorite. I expect her to win. But we're going to go with the first fight, the early prelims. Chuwiwis. We got Raul El Nino Problema Rosas Jr., 19 years old with a 9-1 record. Again, 19 years old. Shane, what were you doing when you were 19? I just had graduated high school. I went to the University of Montana and was a freshman in college. If you had been a freshman in college, you could assume what that life was like. I was not fighting in the frickin' Sphere, though. And he has taken on a grown-ass man, Arichi Lang, the Mongolian murderer. He's such a murderer, he's got one name. He's 31 years old with a 25-10 record. Now again, you know, the UFC, I think, overpriced themselves on this a little bit, trying to start with nosebleed tickets for $5K. You know, they say the top of the Sphere isn't a bad seat because it's the Sphere, but to kick off the best live sporting event off of all time, in Dana White's words, you get a 19-year-old Mexican stud who has a 12-year age gap from his opponent. And Arichi Lang, honestly, 31 years old, in the middle of his prime, just, you know, really at that sweet spot, needing a win. And Raul is surprisingly a massive favorite. And grappling's going to be his path to victory every fight. But against Arichi Lang, it's definitely a big gap. And that's why Arichi Lang has been going to a wrestling, grappling heavy gym. But I think that'd be tough for Rosas to handle. Or I don't think it will be for him to get the grappling victories. But when it comes to the striking exchanges, I do think it will be a slight advantage for the older Arichi Lang, just due to his experience and technicality. And Rosas is still developing that. I mean, the kid's 19 years old. Breaking it down, Raul is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He is 4-1 in the UFC since 2022. 6 of his 9 wins are via submission, 2 via knockout, so 8 of 9 via finish. Now, Arichi Lang has a Sandus style. He's an orthodox fighter who now trains out of Fight Ready here in Phoenix. When I think of Fight Ready, I think of Triple C, Henry Cejudo, the most biggest ego cringy guy ever. And if you didn't see the viral clip of Sean O'Malley punking him on his podcast, highly recommend. That was absolutely hilarious. Pretty savage. But Arichi Lang is on a 1-fight winning streak. His last fight was a no contest because he got a bad groin strike right in the marbles. But he is 3-1-1 since 2022. 18 of his 25 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 11 losses are via submission. Now again, Raul's a young buck, but he is full of confidence. He's going to come out like a freight train. I think he's going to look to pressure and get a finish on Aoriqilong early to get the Mexican spirit going. I do think it's going to come down to if Aoriqilong could weather the storm early, which we had seen in Rahul's first loss. But he had proved in his last fight he could go 15 minutes. He's prepared. But Aoriqilong is going to have to keep the young blood off him. If he can get to round 2, maybe even around 3, he will have opportunities. But I'm not sure that how his strategy is going to work to be able to outlast that, defend the grappling. He's going to have to try to be offensive to put Raul on his back foot so he can't come forward. And I'm not betting on that. I'm taking Raul Rosas Jr. We putting him on that parlay. We marking it down, and we getting that bread. Speaking of parlays and bets, I'm not a big one-fight bettor. I think I need to start doing that to really win money. I put my UFC El Noche ticket cost on Sugar Sean O'Malley, baby. He was an underdog at the time. He opened up at like plus 140 odds. He's now, I think Merab's like a plus 130 underdog. It has swayed that much from betting action. But I got plus money to more than double my money with Sugar Sean so I could get a free ticket and some fun in Vegas. So I got a lot riding on this card. Going to have some fun parlays as well. Now, going into the prelims, we have another young blood. We got Joshua the Fearless Van, 22 years old with a 10-2 record. And why they call it the early prelim for one fight, I'm not sure, but it is what it is. He's taking on Edgar Piro Chikali Chairez, 28 years old with a 11-5 record. So again, a lot of young talent on display in one of the biggest live sporting events of all time. You could not ask for more, and they are getting that opportunity to showcase the world who they are on the biggest stage. Now, Joshua Van, he's even not only having to deal with this at 22 years old, but he's doing it on short notice because Edgar was originally supposed to fight Kevin Borjas, who Joshua Van has defeated. Edgar has had a kind of interesting run in the UFC. Only 3 fights, one of them a no contest. He's had 3 fight cancellations. And Joshua, a little bit of adversity as well. 4 fights in the UFC already. 2 have been on short notice. And he had some fight changes and cancellations early in his career as well. But breaking this down, Joshua is a Fury FC alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak. It was his first UFC loss, but he is 3-1 in the UFC. 6 of his 10 wins are via knockout, 2 via submission, so 8 of his 10 wins have come via finish. Now, Edgar is a Contender Series alum. Although he didn't earn his contract from Contender Series, he is on a 1-fight winning streak and 1-1 in the UFC. Now, Edgar is 6 years older, but he is, in my opinion, more unproven in the UFC. His last win was nice. He lasted to decision against a very good young Tatsuro Taira. I expect this fight to just stay as a kickboxing fight. The more it wears on, the more I favor Van. He has shown to kind of start slow. Although he has taken this fight on short notice, I do think he's really going to be hungry. Like, if you put yourself in a 22-year-old's mindset, what were you doing if you ever had a chip on your shoulder, back against the wall, and people doubted you? How did you respond? You don't really have the experience to be calm, cool, and collected. You're like, I need to show people. Imagine being 22 years old and a UFC fighter at the motherfucking Sphere, man. You can't tell me Joshua Van's going to be coming in fired up. That's exactly what I expect. And for that reason, I think he is going to get the victory. I am taking, and his nickname is the Fearless. Come on now. I'm taking Joshua Van. We putting him on that parlay. We marking it down. And we getting that bread. All right. Moving on. We have Ignacio La Huala, Jaula. La Huala Bahamondes, 27 years old with a 15-5 record, taking on Manuel El Loco Torres, 29 years old with a 15-2 record. Now, honestly, this is a fun fight. We get 2 studs. They're still growing. They're still adding to their repertoire. They're coming into their own before they hit their primes. at 27-29. Manuel could be in his prime, probably 30 to 35. Bahamondes has been in the UFC for quite some time, but still, he's doing it. But they are already known for violence, and I think this fight is going to really bring the juice into the sphere. I would imagine if people are fans like me, you want to watch every fight for the damn ticket price. I'm sure there's a lot of A-list people that are going to be rolling in right before the main card. Hopefully they're here for this fight, but the people that are there, this is the pace setter right here. Both dudes, long, bigger for the division. They love violence and have been finishing their opponents through their UFC career. Breaking it down, Ignacio is an Island Fights, Titan FC, LFA, and Contender Series alum. Not only does he already have this many UFC fights, but those are some reputable promotions he's been in. He's on a one-fight winning streak. He has 3-1 since 2022. 10 of his 15 wins are via knockout. And if you've watched the embeddeds, he trains with the current champion, Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad. Now, Manuel is also a Contender Series alum. He's on a 6-fight winning streak, an undefeated 4-0 in the UFC. He hasn't been out of the first round in his last 7 fights. 7 of his 15 wins are via knockout, 7 of them also via submission, so 14 of his 15 wins come via finish. Now, Manuel is absolutely rolling, man. He is full of confidence. All of his finishes, 3 have come via finish, 1 via submission since he's been in the UFC. And Ignacio, he's the guy just to be able to keep him at distance with this nice long jab, the teep kicks, the leg kicks, the kicking arsenal that he has. I do think Ignacio is going to be able to keep Torres at distance when he needs to, but I think he might also try to close the distance, try to clinch up against the cage, land those knee, that tie clinch type situation. I don't see this fight going the distance. I just think Ignacio is more of a technical striker. Manuel probably has the power advantage, but I'm betting on Ignacio Bahamondes. We're adding him to that parlay as well. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Irene Aldana setting us up before the main card. 36 years old, with a 15-7 record and the number 5 next to her name. Taking on Norma Immortal Dumont. 33 years old with an 11-2 record and the number 9 next to her name. Now, Irene's last fight against Carol Hossa was absolutely insane. And outside of that fight versus Amanda Nunes, she looked good, but, she's on the older side of MMA at a 36-year-old for women's MMA. And Norma, she's been living off her grappling, but that has been shown to be a path to victory for her, especially probably against Irene. So I do expect a lot of grappling-heavy attacks by Norma against Aldana. Breaking this down, Irene trains out of Lobo Gym. 2 of her last 3 fights have been fight of the night or performance of the night. She's showing up, she's showing out. Mexico. She's a Jungle Fight and Invicta alum. She's on a 1-fight winning streak, 2-1 since 2022, and 8 of her 15 wins come via knockout. Now, Norma has a Sandus style. She trains out of Syndicate MMA. Got a few of those, few Lobos. We got a few of the same gyms here. She has a brown belt in BJJ, a black belt in Sonda. She's a Jungle Fight alum. She has the most wins in UFC women's featherweight division history at 5. She's tied with Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer for most bouts in UFC women's featherweight division history at 6, which, if you don't know, the featherweight division no longer exists since Amanda Nunes retired, but she was doing it. She had the most unanimous decision wins in featherweight division history at 4, the most decision bouts at 5, the most total fight time at 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 26 seconds, as well as the most takedowns landed at 9. She's currently on a 4-fight winning streak. She is 4-1 since 2022. And I just really think Norma has looked better since she's kind of been forced to go down to bantamweight. She dominated a very good Germaine Durandamy in Germaine's return since having a baby, just by grappling her way to victory. I think she could do okay trying to kickbox with Aldana, but I expect Aldana to be the more technical and better striker overall. So I do expect to see a lot of takedowns early and often. Aldana's a solid boxer. She's very durable. So Norma shouldn't really play around there. The event, the Mexican fighting spirit, maybe that could get someone hyped up, like, I gotta go out and strike, I gotta deliver. Maybe you don't think logically, you kind of get lost in the sauce. But I doubt she does that, because a win here should be right in the top 5. For that reason, I'm taking Norma Dumont. We're confident, baby. We putting that on the parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on into the main card. Before I came on, briefly saw a little bit of the press conference. These guys were chirping. Like Odie said, they better have that energy in this fight, because Odie's last few fights, I haven't seen it. When I was at UFC 299, I saw Aljamain Sterling, Jamal Hill, Odie Osborne. I think that was it at the Fountain Blue, getting some pizza, some za after the events on Sunday. I just want to see, if you're going to make that big of a scene and try to steal the show from the people that deserve the show on this card, you better show up. So we got Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez, 25 years old with a 17-2 record, taking on Odie, the Jamaican sensation Osborne, 32 years old with a 12-7 record. Now this fight is really important for Odie. He is in desperate need of a win. He's in the middle of his prime. He has been submitted too easily and too often. Ronaldo is newer to the UFC, but he is obviously full of confidence. He's on a 6-fight winning streak at only 25 years old. And to benefit Odie, this is a great matchup between two strikers. Odie has struggled against the grapplers. I don't think either guy is going to want to wrestle. They will bring violence to kick off the main card. That's why it's positioned here. And it's fun because the flyweight speed and precision is just a lot different than the other fighting divisions. Breaking it down, Ronaldo is a Contender Series alum, but he didn't get a contract from the Contender Series. Got a couple of these on this card. He's on a 6-fight winning streak, 1-0 in the UFC. 7 of his 17 wins are via knockout, 5 via submission. So 12 of his 17 wins have come via finish. It's impressive, especially at flyweight. Now, Odie is a southpaw fighter. He has a purple belt in BJJ and kickboxing. He's a Contender Series alum as well. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He is 2-3 since 2022. 5 of his 12 wins are via knockout, 4 via submission. So 9 of his 12 wins come via finish. Finishers for flyweight, you love to see it. Oh yeah, and Odie has a 7.5-inch reach advantage. That's big time right there. To that point, Odie is a fun, long striker for the division. I've been burned on a couple picks with him. I haven't seen the good fighting IQ from him of late. He has a lot more high-level fighting experience than Ronaldo so far, but he's 25. Ronaldo seems like a dog. He's definitely got some aggression. He's got the hat, the outfit in the press conference tonight. He's got that Mexican fighting spirit. But let's see if he could be too much of a force for Odie to keep Odie on his back foot. Because if Odie's coming forward and piecing you up from range, it's going to be a long night. And he definitely could do that with his length and speed. But I'm taking Lazy Boy Ronaldo Rodriguez, not putting this on any parlays where possible. Then moving on, we have Daniel the Golden Boy Zellhuber, another 25-year-old with a 15-1 record, taking on Esteban El Gringo Rabovics, 28 years old with a 13-1 record. Almost identical to the Ignacio Torres fight, we're getting two skilled, violent fighters who are still young and adding to their tool belts before their primes. I do think they will put on one hell of a show before the big 3 fights on this card, and Esteban has really come onto the scene after his last vicious early round 1 knockout over Terrence McKinney, and Daniel has done well since his Contender Series victory himself. Breaking this down, Daniel has a wrestling style. He trains out of Extreme Couture. His last 2 fights have been Fight of the Night or Performance of the Night. He's an Icon Fighting and Contender Series alum. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, 3-1 since 2022. 7 of his 15 wins are via knockout. He's rocking an 8-inch reach advantage and a 4.5-inch leg reach advantage. Now, Esteban is a Contender Series alum. Lots of those here as well. Lots of young bloods. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 3-1 in the UFC. 7 of his 13 wins are via knockout, 5 via submission. He's a finisher, man. 12 of 13 via finish. And you want to talk about like the honor of fighting on a card with this potential? The winner of this fight, if they get a finish, if they're a stock in the stock market, that shit's to the freaking moon. Their career is boosted unlike any other way, maybe possible in UFC history. Daniel only has 1 finish in the UFC. Esteban has 2. But I do think because Esteban is so aggressive, there is going to make some action happen. And I don't think it goes to the scorecards. I'm hoping for a finish. Now, Daniel is more well-rounded. I think he has more ways to victory with his grappling. But if this isn't a decision, I would expect, or if this doesn't go to decision, I would expect Daniel to win. And if it does go to the scorecards, I think Daniel grapples and finds more ways to victory. For that reason, I'm taking Golden Boy Daniel Zellhuber. We are putting him on that parlay. Guess what? We marking it down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. Boy, oh boy, have I been waiting for this fight. We get Brian T-City Ortega, 33 years old with a 16-3 record and the number 3 next to his name, taking on Diego Lopez, 29 years old with a 25-6 record and the number 12 next to his name. Again, we're in for an absolute banger here. I feel like it's even more built up because we got blue balls from UFC through 303. The bout didn't pull out. It was featherweight, then it was lightweight, then it's not happening. Because Brian had an illness, some weight cutting issues, there has been a lot of slander coming towards Brian's way. I hope he could put all that to rest. It shows that he's about that action. He's got that Mexican fighting spirit. But Brian had said he kind of been building his body, Max Holloway style, to fight at lightweight. So he got put in a bad position. But it's happening on Saturday. 2 more sleeps. Plus it seems like he's just happy. He's in a great place in his personal life. And I think that adds a lot of dividends in the middle of your prime. But Diego, he hasn't even started his prime at 29 years old yet. He's coming to the UFC. He's flashed his potential, especially a year ago. The past year he's really blown away the UFC, including myself, including at UFC 300 when he absolutely shut Sadiq Yusuf's lights off. Breaking this down, Brian has a first-degree black belt. 6 of his last 8 fights have been Fight of the Night or Performance of the Night. Don't forget, he was the 2017 Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. He had the 2021 Fight of the Year against Alexander Volkanovski. He's on a 1-fight winning streak. He's 1-1, but really 1-0 since 2022 because of the shoulder injury against Yair Rodriguez. 8 of his 16 wins are via submission. 2 of his 3 losses are via knockout. But again, really only 1 because of the shoulder injury. For Diego, he's an orthodox fighter as well as a black belt in BJJ. 3 of his last 5 fights been Fight of the Night or Performance of the Night. Of course, he's showing up, showing out. He was the 2023 Newcomer of the Year. He's a Contender Series on a 4-fight winning streak. 12 of his 25 wins are via submission, 10 via knockout, so 22 of his 25 via finish. And he does have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Now, Diego may have the length and power advantage, but I do believe Brian has the better, more technical boxing. I said this before I had previewed this before 303. The better technical boxing, I think, is going to pay big dividends in this fight. Brian has also proved to be very durable. He excels the longer the fight goes on. He beat Yair Rodriguez, spraining his ankle, jumping up and down before the fight even absolutely started. I mean, come on now. And he's fought, just the best competition in the UFC, but especially in the featherweight division. Both men, brilliant BJJ artists. I do believe Brian will have the wrestling advantage. He may look for some takedowns in this fight, try to get some top control, but Diego is going to be measured. I think he's going to look for big shots throughout the fight, just like that big uppercut he got against Yusuf. But I'm not sure how he's going to be able to get into BJJ positions. I think this might be like Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns, boxing and wrestling. And I do expect this to be a fun striking match that really has potential for fight of the night. I do think Brian's going to come out on top. So for that reason, we're taking T-City as the underdog. He's coming to eat. And I'll put him on some parlays, maybe not some parlays. But either way, we getting that bread. Should be a fun one. Moving on to the 2 title fights. We got the trilogy. We got Alexa Grasso, 31 years old with a 16-3-1 record, taking on Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko, 36 years old with a 23-4-1 record and the number 1 next to her name. Now, after a year and a half, we're finally getting the conclusion for this flyweight showdown after the trilogy. This legit reminded me of just the female version of the Brandon Moreno, Deiveson Figueiredo trilogy, where every fight was electric and fun to watch. I'm excited to get to see this at the Sphere. I don't think I've seen Shevchenko fight in person. She's one of my favorites, so let's go. Now, Alexa was losing the first fight, I think. It's debatable, but she was winning the striking battle. Valentina got a spinning back kick. Grasso just brilliantly timed it to take her back and get a rear naked choke finish. She said she even drilled that with her team. There was video of her drilling it before the fight in the room where you warm up. And the second fight ended up being a draw. I personally thought Valentina had won that fight, but it was darn close because Valentina was leaning on the grappling, which doesn't always score big in the scorecards. Valentina, you know, I feel like if she's going to find a path to victory, these girls know each other so well, these women, I think she's going to have to dig into the grappling well. You know, Alexa landed 63 more strikes, 4 more significant. Valentina was 4 for 7 in takedown attempts in her last fight. But Alexa, a great boxer, has shown to have more power at 31 years old in her prime. Valentina is a straight animal. Her prime may not exist, but she is aging, right? A year later from the second fight, after the Ultimate Fighter, they've got to know each other very well. They've respected each other. Both women got a champion from the Ultimate Fighter into the UFC. Actually, I think the guy that won on the Apex that broke his leg was Team Valentina as well. So she got 2. Maybe, yeah, I think she got 2. Even though that wasn't how it was meant to be. But either way, they know each other well. This should be another exciting fight. You know, this deserves to be in the Sphere, especially for Noche UFC. I can't wait for this one. Breaking it down, Alexa trains at a Lobo gym. She has a brown belt in BJJ. She was the first Mexican-born woman to win in the UFC championship. She was the 2023 Female Fighter of the Year. She had the submission and upset of the year against Valentina in that fight. She's an Invicta alum. She's on a 5-fight winning streak. Of course, she had the draw there. And then breaking down Valentina's resume, when I say she's one of the GOATs in mixed martial arts, not even the UFC, there's a reason for that. Her resume speaks for itself. I need to take a drink of water to get my throat ready here. Now, Valentina has a Muay Thai style. She's a southpaw fighter. She's got a second Dan black belt in Taekwondo, a black belt of Judo, and internationally kind of a black belt is considered an international master of sport in boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and Judo. She won gold in the 2003, 2006 through 10, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2012 and 14 World Muay Thai Championships. She's considered one of the best Muay Thai fighters of all time. In 2010 and 2013, she won gold in the World Combat Games as well. She is a former flyweight champion with not 1, not 3, not 4, but 7 successful title defenses, which is the most title wins in UFC flyweight division history at 8. She has the most consecutive in flyweight division at 7. The most consecutive single title defenses in UFC history with the 7. She was the first woman to defend the flyweight championship. She's tied with former Caitlin Chukagian, who's now Caitlin Sarmanara, for most wins in UFC flyweight division history with 9. She has the most consecutive wins in the division at 9, the most knockout wins at 4, the longest average fight time at 17 minutes and 59 seconds, because she's always in a championship fight, most takedowns landed in flyweight history at 39, most control time at 1 hour and 9 minutes and 29 seconds, most top position time at 59 minutes and 19 seconds, so most of her control time has been top position, very impressive. She's had the fewest strikes absorbed at 1.88 per minute, the most strikes landed at 1,597, the most total fight time at 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 47 seconds. She holds victories over 4 former champions: Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and Jessica Andrade. She was the 2020, 2021, and 2022 Female Fighter of the Year. In 2013, she was the World K1 Champion. And in 2003, 4, and 5, she was the World Kickboxing Champion. She's a Legacy FC alum. She's on a 1-fight losing streak with the draw. She's won, and won since 2022. 8 of her 23 wins are via knockout, 7 via submission, so 15 of her 23 fights via finish. I hate to beat a dead horse about the age, but it really does matter in a sport like this, like the NFL. You're 30 and you're washed. Alexa has been in her prime window during this trilogy. It's helping her grow and mold into the fighter that she is because of Valentina. Valentina isn't getting any younger, and not being able to win the first 2 fights, the only way, again, I really see her winning is getting more takedowns and control time, because Grasso's boxing is continuing to evolve. She has the empower advantage, and she just lands more volume overall. Valentina is one of the best women to ever do it, ever on this earth. She has just as high of an IQ as anybody in all of MMA, and I don't feel like she's falling off per se. She's only 36, but I do think Alexa's going to have the advantage. For that reason, I'm taking Alexa Grasso, but I'm avoiding this on any bets like the plague. I'm excited to see it in person. What sets us up for the main event, the show, the Mother Sugar Show. We got Sean Sugar O'Malley, 29 years old with an 18-1 record, 18-0, he's undefeated, taking on Merab the Machine Dvalishvili, 33 years old with a 17-4 record, and the number 1 next to his name. Finally, the return of the Sugar Show. After Miami, I wasn't sure if I would see this fight or not, but it's happening in the Sphere. It's bigger than ever for the one and only UFC Noche at the Sphere, man. We get the classic striker versus grappler. This fight is very black and very white. What each fighter wants to do for a path to victory. If you think, no, this person's going to change it up and do this and do that, that is not the case. Both men are full of confidence. They're in their primes, and Merab has been wanting this fight forever. Fight after fight coming into the UFC. They came in at the same time. He's been asking for the Sugar Show. He's finally getting it, especially, there's some drama. Sean knocked out his good friend and training partner in Aljamain Sterling to dethrone him from the Bantamweight Championship and steal his title. And for the longest time, everyone has really wanted to see Sean prove himself with his grappling defense, his BJJ. But if we're going to see this fight, I would bet on it. I bet we're going to see it. So tune in. No more excuses. Don't blink, because it's about to go down. Now, Sean trains out of the MMA lab in Red Hawk Academy. He has a brown belt in BJJ. He has 1 successful title defense. He has the most significant strikes landed in a UFC bantamweight title fight, 230 against Marlon Vera. You love to see it. 9 of his 13 UFC fights have been performance of the night or fight of the night. When he shows up, he absolutely shows out. He has the most post-fight bonuses in UFC bantamweight division history with 9. He has the highest number of strikes landed per minute in UFC bantamweight division history at 7.67. He has the highest significant strike differential in UFC bantamweight division history at 4.24. He has the highest striking differential in UFC bantamweight bout, 160 against Chris Moutinho. He won an ESPY in 2024 for Best MMA Fighter. He's an LFA and Contender Series alum. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. He had the no contest against Pedro Munoz. He's 3-0-1 since 2022. 12 of his 18 wins are via knockout, and he is rocking a 4-inch reach advantage. Merab recently is training at a Syndicate MMA in Vegas. He's got a black belt in Judo, a purple belt in BJJ. He has the most unanimous decision wins in UFC bantamweight division history with 8. He's tied with his training partner Aljamain Sterling for the longest win streak in bantamweight division history with 9. The most takedowns in bantamweight division, 66. The most takedowns attempted in a bout, he had 49 against Peter Yan. He had the most strikes landed in UFC bantamweight division history, 1,736. He's a Ring of Combat alum and former champ. He had 1 successful title defense with Ring of Combat. He's also a Cage Fury alum. He's on a 10-fight winning streak, 3-0 since 2022. I would not be surprised if Sean lands a massive left in this fight. We have seen Merab recently be rocked with that in the Cejudo, the Peter Yan, and Jose Aldo fights. I also would not be surprised if Sugar lands a nice knee, like the Peter Yan fight, or some elbows as he's trying to come in and close distance. On the other end of the spectrum, I wouldn't be surprised if Merab really tried to close distance and struggled. Maybe even got a couple takedowns, but not to the clip that he has been of late. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 1 or 2 throughout the fight. But the question is he going to be able to keep the longer, lengthier Sean O'Malley down? Sean is too fast, he's too long, he's too precise, and too powerful. There's so many levels to the striking game, and his levels are so much higher, and I truly believe him and his team have a lot better IQ. They've been working together since pretty much Montana days. Also, how does the new team that Merab's working with adjust his game plan? Do they stick with the things that have helped Merab come to the championship bout? It will be interesting. Plus, it will be interesting to see if any of that training in Mexico is something that he's trying to work with his striking like he has said in interviews. I highly doubt it. But I'm expecting a knockout here. There is a chance where Merab just takes Sean down over and over. I just feel like even if Sean is getting taken down, Tim's going to be like, hey, we could accept some of these, but on the way in, make him pay for it. Uppercuts, elbows, knees, and I feel like there's going to be a finish. For that reason, I'm saying, and still, I'm taking Sean O'Malley. I got my fight ticket on the fight. We throwing that on the parlay. We marking it down, and we getting that bread. Let's see it in Vegas at the Sphere. Can't wait to recap it for y'all on episode 66. But next week, there is no action. We get another week off before we go to some more international travel outside the Apex. Thank goodness. We got the UFC Fight Night in Paris. And this one is headlined by Renato Moicano. Moicano wants money. And we got BSD Benoit Saint-Denis in a decent Fight Night card. Not super deep, but quality talent. Then it's 9 weeks. You got Football Sunday. You got UFC 9 consecutive weeks in a row. Sports fans, let's rejoice. Welcome to fall. Cheers to that. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.